Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for being here. If you're with us live this evening or watching this recording, screen time is such an important topic. I know it's not everyone's favorite topic, but it's really relevant today. There's never been a more difficult time to parent than in the digital age. And having children with special needs is no different why we should pay extra attention to this part of parenting and this environmental factor that's affecting our children more and more as the advances in AI come to market, and we're seeing more harms to children. This is a special presentation for families of Hope on the Hard Road. So everything that you're watching tonight, this is our flagship presentation. I want to invite you to hopefully watch the entirety of it in one sitting, although I know that can be hard. So you're welcome to pause, replay, go back. I move along pretty quickly to make sure that it's engaging for everyone. But there's so much great information, some that you have probably heard about, some that I know you haven't heard about. So this is a very comprehensive hour-long presentation. I'm so thrilled to be here today. And I want to personally invite you, because of time constraints, I'm not going to have time to take live questions. So if you're watching this as a replay or you're watching this right now, if you would like to email me directly, you can reach me at nicole@screentimeclinic.com. I am happy to respond to your questions personally via email. You can also set up a free consultation with myself or someone on my team to talk about your child's specific needs, their digital sensitivities, and how this is going to impact them and play into how your family can manage screen time so that we are really raising children the healthiest that we can, because there is no evidence that shows that special needs children have any superpowers protecting them from the harms that we're seeing all children and even adults experiencing from the fast-paced format of video games, scrolling, and social media online. And while it might seem like something that they really enjoy, perhaps it's one of the only times where they're still and seeming to be content. It is still overstimulating their brain and activating the pathways that are responsible for reward pathways, gambling, and addiction, not creativity, peacefulness. This is why, in a nutshell, we're seeing so many mental health problems, aggression problems, and just problems that are not human nature. So I'm going to go over this all in a lot of detail, so you don't have to just sit and watch me and listen to me blabber on. But I wanted to give you a personal welcome for tonight and really thank you for being here. And I am here to support you in helping craft a plan for your family, for your children, so that they are safe with technology and it can be used smartly as a tool. So with that, I think we should get started with the presentation. I'm going to pull that up here for you right now, and we'll get started. So this presentation, I have given hundreds of them, helped thousands of families, is the starting point to really talk about how can we use screen time in our families in a smart way that causes no harm. But before I get started, let's see, technology here. I want to assure you that you are not the only one with concerns and challenges. We always collect questions ahead of time or answer them afterwards or have them emailed to me in your situation. And there are just so many questions. And I want to assure you that after tonight's presentation, you will have the answers to these questions and you will feel more assured than ever that you have a plan and that you know what to do. A lot of times I give these presentations live, and I also do adult presentations, sometimes just focusing around AI and how we're using it as adults. Tonight, as I said, we're going to focus on how this presentation, how the information in this presentation particularly reflects and is relevant for our parents with special needs children. But before we dive into it, I want to make one thing certain, that I'm not here to make anybody feel guilty. It's never been harder to be a parent, teenager, and adult in a culture dominated by big tech. But we know that the more we know, the better we can guide our children and ourselves how to use technology safely so it's not using us. But while we are doing this presentation, I'd invite you to challenge yourself to just singularly focus on this topic and see how difficult it's really become in the digital age to focus and listen without distractions of others, without scrolling, without multitasking, checking your phone. I know there's a million things as busy adults we need to do, but to be able to give yourself permission to sit and relax and consume this information is really a gift. And it's such an important topic that I think it will really behoove you. So if you have a pen and paper, you are welcome to take notes that way. We know this is a great way to make notes on pen and paper rather than digitally. So why screen time and why are we talking about it? There's so many articles now. A big reason is that since the pandemic, there's been tons and tons of studies coming to light in the media, even though it's been well studied for over a decade now. This book, the anxious generation, not the ancient generation, that's me, the anxious generation, is such an amazing book. I would invite you to write down that title and get the book. The author has just become really well known and on many news and media outlets and spreading the word about how we really need to pay attention because it is such a serious topic these days and causing so much harm. But this is not unlike other forms of marketing that we've seen historically. We've seen tobacco being sold as healthy, sugar being sold as healthy, as a diet tool to give you energy, cocaine even to give you energy and to solve your problems. All of these things, most closely akin to the tobacco industry, is what we're seeing with big tech happening right now, where we're tricked into thinking it's something good, it's making our kids smarter, it's what they need. But in reality, it's honestly really killing them. And unfortunately, right now in America, we have no clear warnings for parents about the toxicity of screen time and neurologically what it does, the damage it causes, potentially long term, similar to alcohol and pornography viewing. We have all sorts of warnings, even on Tide Pods, about keeping them away from children. Playboy magazines are very hard to buy. Unfortunately, this content is very easy to come by online. It's extremely addictive because of its supernatural impact and what it does to the brain. And there are no warnings. So this is the best that we're doing right now, are presentations to talk to parents about the warnings. So with this presentation, we'll do a brief speaker introduction about myself and my company, and then we'll get right on to all these different subtopics. We're going to move pretty quickly. So if you need to pause or rewind or rewatch segments, I really encourage you to do so. Screen Time Clinic was founded by myself after being a teacher in middle school and high school for many years. I saw the problems that we were having firsthand in the classroom and with my own children. I quit my teaching job and constructed this organization, Screen Time Clinic, consisting not only of myself, but a whole network of educators that we certified to give you trustworthy advice about screen time and how you can manage that efficiently in your family. Personally, as I said, my background is in teaching. I also have my MBA and I'm an entrepreneur. So I had the skills to build this company. And it's really a passion of mine that I've been called to help families so that nobody has to struggle the way I did with my sons when they were little. And I had no one to turn to. I knew there was a problem. I could tell that the iPad for my son, who was on the autism spectrum, was all consuming. It's all that he wanted. And this is really what drove me to invest myself in understanding screen time and becoming an expert in it. I've been quoted in the Wall Street Journal since 2020 multiple times. I've written a book, Screen Smart Sam. That's a really good starting point for families with littles to talk about screen times and answer some of those questions. Why can't I have it? Why can my friends have it? What is it doing? But I want it, because we know for kids, it's not only a battle with parents having that conflict within their own minds, but also with kids, with other kids, seeing some kids using it and some kids not. And this is the same, especially important with kids with special needs, because we want to treat every child uniquely and meet them where they're at. So not only was I a mother experiencing problems with my own children when it came to the internet, funny enough, I was actually one of the first tech obsessed teenagers. This is a picture of me with my wisdom teeth being taken out. It was the day I remember that I got to play unlimited video games. This is only Donkey Kong and Mario Brothers, but man, I loved playing it. So much so that I distinctly remember asking my mom and hoping that I could have more wisdom teeth taken out so I could have more unlimited time in front of the computer, which was terrible. Luckily, I was raised in a very screen light family. We only watched, a Sunday night movie, and video games were very, very limited. But boy, I was very drawn to it. And that's part of the giftedness, turns out, of special needs children and those on the autism spectrum, that they really, really are drawn to it because it appeals to them neurologically different than other children. Then when AOL released their chat function, I was one of the first at age 17 to start an underage, what we now know is called grooming, conversation with a man much older than me. Who knows how old he really was, but he sent an enormous box of Victoria's Secret free to my house in exchange for me sending him in the old-fashioned mail photos of myself wearing it. Now, I thought as a 17-year-old, like so many of our youngsters do now, that this transactional relationship was amazing. It seems so simple and so harmless, but we now know this monetization of ourselves, self-commodification is actually what it's called, is extremely damaging. And I'm glad my parents shut that right down. My dad is in the military and made me send the whole box back. So moving on to when I became a parent, we still didn't know about the internet harms, and baby Einstein was coming of age. We had Teletubbies, and I thought, like so many, that baby Einstein would make my son, my firstborn, so much smarter. He started watching it during tummy time, well under 2 years old. And this is causally related to digital addictions. The earlier they view it, the earlier it stimulates that neural pathway towards addiction and obsession, OCD. And to fast forward to 2016, when he was 13, getting Call of Duty, it was the only thing from Roblox, Minecraft, Angry Birds, only thing that he wanted, because he was exposed to it so early. And as a single mom, I did not have the support of his father or the wherewithal of myself to cut it out and really not partake in it, even though I could tell as a mother how deeply this was impacting my son. So I fell victim to the if you can't beat them, join them motto. And we went all in with the video games. He seemed to be so talented and very, very good at it, of course, but this resulted in a full-blown addiction. So by the time he was 14 and 15, we made radical change and removing all of the screen time, trying to undo the years of damage. We did a digital detox, got him involved in flying, something that would replace that dopamine drive and challenge him equally. My dad, like I said, was a pilot. So we had that in our family, that I felt driven and to help him rediscover some different areas of life, whatever it is, sports, tried everything. So I'm coming from you not only today, this is an important part of the story to tell you, not only as an educator and an expert, but also as a mother, And I know the pain that it is seeing that your kid just is so happy with these video games and scrolling. And sometimes it's the only thing they can have. Even like me and many of my clients, you come across these games when they are hospitalized or when they have special needs or when it seems like it's the only thing that will bring joy to their life. But we know neurologically it causes damage. And so this is why we want to really encourage parents to use technology with littles because their brain is developing as a tool, not as a binky, a pacifier, a toy, not something to get your child to sleep at night, and not a coming of age just because you're of a certain age. Now you're given a phone or an iPad. And as we come upon holidays, not to give as a gift because it is a tool that has the potential to cause a lot of harm and might need to be taken away if that arises. So I know you all are thinking, well, this is great, very interesting, but how is it possible to do with my own family, given all the stresses of today's society and how much our kids simply just love it? So I want to assure you that through knowledge plus tools, you can take action towards success. And here is how. So with that, let's talk about the knowledge part because we are going to dive into the brain science and the online risk research that we are currently seeing. So with screen time, there's generally two areas of screens. There is passive screen time, which has longer plots, generally thought of more educational, slow programs. We are not talking about cartoons here, though, because cartoons are very fast-paced. They are bright colors. The characters talk really high and fast like this, and it stimulates a different part of the brain than nature shows or plots that you have to follow people and go through the lulls of the ups and downs. Distance learning, schoolwork is not ideal to be done online. So if you have a child with special needs, I highly encourage you to make sure that they are in a classroom with real life people and practicing their people skills during the duration of their childhood and not defaulted to screen distance learning. This was coming into the market as a necessity during the pandemic, and it's certainly a path of least resistance. And sometimes it cannot be avoided. But if you have the choice, a parental choice, not your child's choice, children will always choose the path of least resistance. But it is by far the best to have your child in class, in a regular classroom, if they have special needs, because they are picking up all these little human qualities and practicing their self-regulation. They're getting along with others, looking at others, seeing different sights, and practicing doing things that they don't like to do, because that is the biggest thing of childhood and self-regulation. And special needs children develop slower than others, so they need more sustained focus. And any time online is really reducing this sustained focus, even with leisure time. So for special needs, in person is best in everything that we can do. The most dangerous type of screen time is interactive and immersive screen time. This is when people are touching, moving, apps, games, anything that's moving fast, that has reward built into it. It's gamified is the term, reward structures, no age verification. And these are the most addictive by design, and they are most harmful. Another thing with special needs children is that they are very gullible is the term. And this is because that part of their brain doesn't develop until the very last. So online predators are very quick to pick up on gullibilities and sensibilities. And special needs children don't have that sense about them. On the whole autism spectrum, I mean, even really high performing, the gullibility is a very sensitive area that takes a long time to develop. And so they are especially at risk for predators online with any games or YouTube. You can chat now. There are no safe apps that will protect them from predators. So I want to make that really clear up front while we're going through all of this. The areas of addiction are the hyper cartoons for littles because they're so captivating, gaming, social media, pornography, and then the compulsive spending in apps, a lot of times in Roblox and Minecraft. There is this spending even in ed tech games with math games. You accumulate loot and then you spend it on prizes. That is no different than gambling, and it's activating the neural pathways in the brain that make them want to do it more and more, which we all know as adults, nobody wants a gambling problem. Information overload and AI chat addiction is the other area that we're seeing very recently here. I don't need to go into depth about how much of a problem this is. We see it every day. It's in the news. It used to be a small problem or a medium problem before the pandemic, and now it's a massive problem because AI has collected so much information about us. The algorithms have gotten so strong since the pandemic because of all of the users that all of the content is very customized and extremely engaging. So it's very, very hard. We used to say when I started Screen Time Clinic in 2018 that you could moderate, you could play 1 hour a day. We still see the American Pediatric Association saying 1 to 2 hours per day is okay. That is a very archaic recommendation. It has not been revised since the pandemic. And we know with AI, even a little bit makes it very addictive and very hard to use occasionally. So with that, I want to inform you of some of this big tech misleading rhetoric that I want you to be able to hear when you're seeing people talk about technology and maybe trying to convince you that your child needs it or it'll help them. Because there's been so much misinformation out there. People are just repeating what big tech has inundated us, like the tobacco industry, to think. They make us think that this is a parenting problem. Or it's a parenting right, that you should have the right to let your child play video games that we know cause so much harm because there are predators and the addictive design, and the game is not safe by design. So just like alcohol, tobacco, and drugs, there is not a parenting right to expose your child to harmful substances. We need all children to be safe, and many parents are way too busy or don't have the proper resources to keep their kids properly safe online. So this is a big, flawed misconception that big tech likes to play on us. They also claim that they have safety settings. We see all the time. It's part of their media ploy. They're rolling out another parental control in TikTok and Minecraft, and Roblox is currently getting sued for all the harm that they have caused. And they are, oh, we have changed it. Everything's different. But in reality, they're very easy to circumvent. They don't work usually, and they're just satisficing efforts or marketing ploys. They also downplay the problems, like I talked about, that, oh, it's not that bad. We put safety settings. It's not our fault. Then, most egregiously, I've seen on major TV commercials that they're promoting the benefits, how TikTok teaches us new things, that it connects us with faraway others. And we know once you join these apps and once you get on the app, even if you're looking for a craft or a recipe, it takes you down a rabbit hole of more illicit and salacious content, because that's what engages. It goes to your darkest and most engaging. For me, it's pickleball, that I could watch pickleball videos over and over, and it's learned this. So even if I log on to see my friends, soon it's pickleball and fast paced. But for kids, it's more salacious content, depressing, sexual content, because they know this engages the most because it's very new and it's very shocking. And that's why, and there's no gatekeeping around it. Big tech also claims that there's more research needed, and we have been studying this for over a decade now, um, all over the globe. China was one of the first ones to come out with very strict regulations for their children and their own studies. And yet, the big tech claims that more research is needed, or they conduct their own studies and downplay the problems and say, oh, we don't really know. Even 5 years ago, they didn't know if autism symptoms were causality related to screen time. And now we know they are caused by screen time, that the part of the brain is stimulated to cause these symptoms that are on the autism spectrum. Some of it is genetic. A lot of it also is environmental. So the reality is that we have unbiased worldwide research from unbiased experts. We have Senate hearings even warning of the serious harms. We have surgeon generals, we have insiders from tech companies, we have pediatricians, neuroscientists, all saying the current design in America is harmful and most media is not safe for youth in North America. And yet, here we are. I know we're online talking about this. Again, technology as a tool, age appropriate, we're adults, but there is still much work to be done.
What we see on TikTok is a bit the same that what we saw on YouTube. So basically, the algorithm is detecting that this depressing content is useful to create engagement and pushes depressing content. So the algorithm is pushing people towards more and more extreme content, so it can push them toward more and more watch time.
So this is a little explanation. I want to show you where you can find these videos on our website and watch the full-length videos, because it is hard to sometimes find this unbiased information. And our website is a great resource if you want to do a deep dive. This is the homepage on the left here that scrolls down and down and down. And then if you go to parents and you navigate down to resources, you can see these full-length videos that we will be showing some clips in today if you're rewatching this video, and you can watch the full length there. So how is it that children are such more impacted than adults? And this is a case of not only we as adults want to use technology as a tool because we need it for our jobs, but we also want to be sensitive to not using it in front of our children or overly using it, taking time away from our children. But for our children to be using it, just because we enjoy scrolling doesn't mean they should, because their brains are much, much more sensitive to visual stimulation than ours are. And this shows how the brain lights up. This is why you see babies, they don't care what's on your phone screen. They just want your phone. They want to look at lights. They want to see things that are bright and moving, but it's overstimulating their brain. So it's not good for it. We want babies out in nature with calm and voices and seeing real people and real micro movements of the faces. We do not want them learning things online, because as you can see, even from presentations online, you can't really tell my expression online. You can't really see in my eyes if I'm sad or where I'm looking. You want babies and youngsters to really be experts in studying people, in studying their parents, in studying their siblings, in studying everything, all the surroundings around them. Because even 15 minutes on a device overstimulates. It sends blood from the thinking part of the brain to the reward pathway of the brain and overstimulates that reward pathway. So back to the science of how brains develop, it takes, remember, 25 years for the frontal cortex to develop. And this frontal cortex is arguably the most important part of the brain, because that's what's in charge of executive functioning, impulse control, emotional control, and cues that last, and all the human cues are the very last to develop if they are practiced and stimulated. You don't just turn 25 and have your frontal lobe fully developed by the frontal lobe fairy. You have to have your child be practicing this. And this is why we don't want almost any screen time, no screen time for special needs children, because they really need this part of their brain to have extra attention developing. Because when the frontal lobe is underdeveloped, we see risky behavior, novelty seeking, inability to stop playing video games or things that they shouldn't be doing, temper tantrums, and violence. I see a lot of special needs kids that previously didn't have access to scrolling, that were then given access to gaming or scrolling, and suddenly develop a lot of oppositional behavior, and are once were very sweet, now become very oppositional and very agitated and angry easily. This can be directly correlated to the stimulation that they're getting neurologically from screen time. So the best advice, if you're seeing this happening, if your child is or young adult is currently using screen time, to do a digital detox. And we'll talk about solutions later in this presentation. But I want to just reiterate the importance of, for special needs kids, their frontal lobe takes a lot longer to develop. And so we want to give ourselves extra patience and really realize that we are their frontal lobe. Parents are our children's frontal lobe. We do the thinking and reasoning and controlling for them and make these decisions for them, because if it's up to them, they will choose what's pleasurable and what's the path of least resistance and what they really want, without thinking of the consequences, literally because they can't. So again, we're seeing all of this information that I'm giving to you today has been researched for a decade. We're seeing many, many brain scans now confirming that this is such a serious causality factor. And screen time viewing causes atrophy and aging of the brain. Another reason that we don't want to have our special needs children excessively viewing screen time, or any viewing if possible. Again, abstinence is best for special needs children, unless they're using it as a way to communicate that it's, a tool. We really do not want any leisure viewing, because it can cause atrophy of their brain matter, similar to chronic substance addiction, abuse. Compulsive pornography viewing has been, this is the same area as compulsive scrolling and compulsive gaming. So when you're under this type of viewing over and over and over, it's the same to chronic abuse, causing that part of their brain to atrophy. And we know that those on the autism spectrum have greater risk than neurotypical. This also causes repetitive sensory motor behaviors and activity, OCD, along with depression, anxiety, and the whole litany of behaviors and symptoms that, as parents, we really want to shield our children from. And we know that versus eliminating versus moderating, for special needs children, we want to take the path of eliminating, and then perhaps introducing back, similar to a peanut allergy. And this is why we really want to treat all children separately. Just because one child doesn't have any symptoms playing video games, it is likely that they are experiencing symptoms. They are just not as pronounced as those on the autism spectrum or with special needs. So for all children, no screen time is best. Extremely limited is second best, but we want to make sure that we're approaching it as a family and you're adjusting to the most sensitive member of your family, just like a peanut allergy. And eliminating the screen time exposure will reduce or eliminate symptoms by 50 to 100%. So this book, Reset Your Child's Brain, by Jean Twin. She's actually a professor in San Diego that has been studying this for over a decade. She's one of the forefront people in noticing the causality between this. It is without a doubt the first thing to do before medication, with medication, after you watch this video, whatever time is right, that a screen detox is absolutely positively necessary for those with special needs. This is similar to a peanut allergy or a gluten allergy. When you discover the allergy, you eliminate it. And then after a period of elimination, which for screen time is 60 to 180 days, depending on the severity and the consumption and the age, then you can cautiously reintroduce and see if there's any symptoms. Again, this is talking about how much research there has been about this topic. Another, the big tech bias, 1 to 2 hour recommendation. This is not for special needs children. And 1 to 2 hours also is not valid. Is it 1 hour a day or is it 2 hour a day? And a daily use is not recommended anymore either, given the advances in AI and the dangers online. These are very old recommendations from the American Pediatric Association and CDC and others. Also be aware that many therapists that you're working with are generally unwilling to suggest a digital detox and are untrained about digital media overuse or addiction. They don't know how it will go. They feel like this is the only kids' friends, their source of joy. And that's a falsity. Even if your child is so isolated that their only friends are online friends, this is a huge red flag. This is number one reason to do a digital detox. But therapists are so overwhelmed these days that many of them will not address digital media overuse, and it's just easier to talk about the symptoms and coping rather than really address a strategy for healing and getting better and eliminating the neuroagitation. With athletes, we know that screen time impairs their athletic ability also. This is a whole separate area of screen time that we talk about, and that screen time, even, all people, it impacts. So this is a lot of times happens in families that I coach with special needs. They have another child that's an athlete. And when we remove screen time for the special needs child and adjust to the most sensitive, the athlete in the family actually makes super abnormal gains also because that screen time has been removed. Not that that was the focus of our intervention efforts, but it's a great added bonus. So the other part of screen time and development is that it reduces interest in other people. This is why if your only friends are your online friends, of course your child is not going to want to take interest in other kids. They withdraw from building friendships, and it harms family bonds. So even though you think that you're doing your child a favor, allowing them to game online or scroll online, it's actually harming your own bond with them. It lowers their ability to listen, to build patience, to control oneself. They're hyper-focused, reward-driven. It destroys creativity and self-esteem. When you're looking at so much content online, those are the building blocks that you're thinking how things are creative, and true creativity comes from within, not from what we're seeing online. And again, we're talking about this gullibility and susceptibility to scams and blackmail. Young boys in particular are having an abnormally high rate of suicide from blackmail, 25% these days. 1 in 4 young boys are committing suicide because of the content and depressing and the blackmail scams that are being run online, because their frontal lobe is so underdeveloped that they don't feel like there's any other solution than to kill themselves. And that's really a shame, and it's very well known, and there's little that we can do about it as parents other than to please keep them from these platforms that have adults on them any friends. We don't know. They don't check age. There's no verification. Minecraft, Roblox, Discord, YouTube, all of these with a chat function. They are very sophisticated predators. So again, our children are unable, even though they think they know everything, they certainly probably know more about technology and how to log on and find what they want to find than us. They really need our help in moderating. Here's a whole other list of other ailments arising from digital media overuse. We have, the tech neck, and this is seen in special needs kids too. If you are constantly looking down at a device, we really need your head up and for your posture to be more upright and for you to be moving naturally. Anytime that you have a device in front of you, your body shuts down. It goes into this very micro movement stillness mode that is not good for their body. It overloads their brain-body connection, their sympathetic nervous system overloads from what they're seeing. There's excessive pressure on spine and lungs from sitting unnaturally so long. My own son we went to Dubai, and he sat on the airplane. It was nonstop from LAX, including the time on the tarmac. He sat and looked at his phone for 18 hours without getting up. I was in a different area of the plane and didn't prompt him to get up, which I probably should have. I didn't realize that he hadn't moved until my other son told me. But the captive ability of technology to hamper our children's ability to understand their bodies and when they need to go to the bathroom and what it feels like to be hungry, and all these little pings of senses that they're getting are completely numbed when there's a device in front of them. And that's really, really important to consider with special needs children, because we need them to sharpen those senses and to know and to be able to understand their own bodies more than other kids. Of course, there's EMF radiation and the 5G. Anytime a child has these devices close to them, it's impacting their bodies. There's also the irreversible damage to their eyes from the blue light and viewing screens close up, that they are literally losing their ability to see far away because their eyes are changing shape. This eye myopia from viewing close screens. Even myself, I see this when I have a work day where I'm constantly on my phone or on my computer. When I go to watch a TV far away or read something far away or read a newspaper, my eyesight is much, much worse. So these are things that I want you to be aware of, not to assign blame, but to say, I know we can do better. And I know we can choose alternatives to screen time. And I want to assure you, from the thousands of families that I've worked with and the success stories, there is a way to do it. Children do thrive without it. They don't need to sit captivated and still. They can be able to move around, and the struggles that you are dealing with them moving and fussy and needing more attention are worth the efforts in having their brain develop properly. So we're going to dive in a little bit more to the top areas of youth harm, which is gaming and spending and social media and pornography. And I know pornography is sometimes a sticky point for parents, that they really don't want to hear about it, but it is in all of the online content, all of it, from Pinterest to Roblox and Minecraft, and the ads that pop up and the links that are sent and the situations in the rooms with farm animals. And, it's just so insidious. We have to talk about it. So let's do
Are children who are victims of their own biology.
Being able to tolerate the feeling of frustration or that moment of sadness when you decide, I'm not going to continue doing this. That is crucial.
One of the reasons the children in these videos find it so hard to control themselves is because they don't yet have a fully developed prefrontal cortex.
The prefrontal cortex is a key component in the brain that's involved in helping us to control impulses and urges. When you have something like the video game being turned off suddenly, the child is faced with having to feel those negative emotions.
Another factor is dopamine, which is often referred to as the brain's pleasure chemical, because it's associated with feelings of euphoria, motivation, and concentration.
Dopamine is a key component of regulating reward mechanisms in the brain. The stimulation we receive from playing a video game impacts the same pathways that are present when one is becoming intoxicated with a substance. So it's no surprise that many of the behaviors and reactions that we see for a child who's struggling with having this sudden stop brought about in their video game playing has analogs to someone who is being asked to stop usage of a substance.
So again, that full length video is on there. It's a little bit older video, but it's still very relevant. And I do like the analogy to video game playing and scrolling to alcohol abuse, because it is very similar in how it neurologically changes the pathways in the brain. And this is why we are so concerned that it is causing long-term damage and stunting brain growth, because we know the brain only develops during the childhood era from 0 to 25. This is, 0 to 7, the neurons are pairing up, and after 7, they're pairing down. And so we really want to be cautious of what neurologically our children are exposed to. And if you're seeing that your child is playing video games, especially with special needs, I would highly advise to abstain and stop that right away. And we can help make a plan, or you can certainly just do it yourself. But the reason why video games are so insidious is that they are highly, highly visual. They have no ending, and they adjust to exactly what your child wants to do and see. And this is why they create such obstinance and violence in real life, because children and teens, when they're in their virtual worlds, they get to act out exactly how impulsively they feel, and there's no consequences. And they're in this immersive alter ego state of being, and they just there's no other way to describe it, in that it's so highly addictive. It's changing how they act, not only online, but it changes how they act in person. They're exposed, Minecraft or Roblox, to a lot of bad scenes that look like, Legos, but then from Minecraft, Roblox, then they want to get into first-person shooter games that have a lot of situations in them with pornography, harm to women, violence against each other. And so this is very, very common, even though kids will tell you, oh, no, that's not in my game, I don't do that. It definitely is. So for gaming myths is that, we are not stronger than AI. You can't expect your teenager, especially special needs teen, to be able to control the video game. It controls them. It takes them where the video game wants to control them. It's not creative play, and it's not an age appropriate job either. So there's no real friendship qualities. If this is your child's only form of friendship, are these online friends, these are not friendship qualities. These are alter ego behaviors, and they are not learning how to be friends, and they're not healthy friendships either. They're very conditional friendships. And also for special needs, we want to be sure that we are seeing that even if your child enjoys and seems to be good at gaming or games, that this is not a healthy profession. Do not misinterpret being addicted to having a gift for a profession, because the technology professions are extremely unhealthy. They're even more unhealthy when they're starting young. I like to think of telling parents, if you had a very beautiful daughter who was a great dancer, there is no way that you would let her work in a strip club because she's exposed to all of this unsavory adult sinful behavior that is hard on the psyche, and it's just a world that you don't want them in. This is very similar to gaming and being on computers. There's a lot of job opportunities for special needs kids. And in fact, it's a real reason to have them do things in person that's utilizing all their skills in person rather than being online, because it will be so addictive and harmful to them if they choose that profession. So as parents, we want to make sure we steer the pathway away from that. The other thing is that earlier gaming, when we're talking about a digital detox, we need to know how early gaming, for my son, he was 3 years old playing, or maybe I guess he was 6 years old. It was baby Einstein first. And then when the iPads came out, he was 6, with Angry Birds. But the earlier that they're involved in these iPad games, the greater risk they'll have later for depression, anxiety, and aggression. They are more addictive with early exposure because that addictive neural pathway has been stimulated earlier. And this is why parents say, okay, well, I can prevent it all I want until age 18, and then they go off to college. How am I going to prevent them from doing it then? And the answer is their brain will be more developed by then. And you will have safety measures in place because you know that this is part of your family values. You will insist that when they go to college, that they not partake in video gaming as part of you perhaps paying for college. Now, if you're not paying or supporting them in college and they're truly on their own, that's when they can decide how they want to consume alcohol and digital media. And by that time, when they are self-sufficient, surely they can make a reasonable choice, because it is very hard to be self-sufficient in today's world because they see so many fallacies online about how to get rich quick. And this is why we're seeing the younger generation having so many problems living at home and not being motivated to really have these adulting skills. And I work with a lot of parents in the treatment resistant time of 18 to 26 of kids living at home, not wanting to do anything and just happy to sit on the couch, and they call it brain rot now, and do as very little as necessary, and perfectly happy to submerge themselves online. So if that's something you're dealing with, please take time to reach out to me also, and our team can help you with that. Also, we see premature puberty from excessive artificial stress online. So when you're 6 and 7 years old playing video games, 8, 9, 10, this is when kids get into video games, and this is the best time to really lock down and cut it back out. Because if they're playing video games through puberty, their brains are wiring up, their hormones are wiring up, and this is when really a catastrophe is happening, when they're getting into the young adult 14, 15 gamers. Are a very dangerous combo of self-assuredness and this ideology that they're gleaning from online gaming and the way that it's impacting their brain development. Parents now are being held legally liable for the mental health deterioration and aggression that's directly a result of online gaming. We see this in the school shooters, particularly the Crumbly case. So we want to be acutely aware of what our children are doing online. And I am telling you, it is so hard to tell what they are doing online, that this is why, again, abstinence to protect your own family and your child is best. Big tech is not on the hook as they should be. There's a lot of lawsuits against big tech, but they are still protected by an old AB 230 provision that they cannot be held liable for harms caused by their platform. Another unique thing to gaming is that it changes in-person interactions and family dynamics. So even though you want to see your child happy, that is really harming the parent-child bond, and It's also influencing their in real life friend selection, that at school they're only talking with other gamers about it. And we really don't want our kids to self-select friends that have this obsession with video games. We want them to be well-rounded and a variety of friendships and a variety of interests. It replaces the hormones involved in parent bonding, real life others, and activities. So we have kids that were interested in soccer, started video gaming, and now they don't want to do soccer anymore. They don't really want to do this and that anymore. Sometimes it's obvious, the connection between that. Sometimes it's more subtle, but that is the dopamine drive and real life correlation that we're seeing. Adult platforms, we talked about that. We do not want special needs children on these gaming platforms because they are largely participated by adults and predators, largely. It also creates a lower desire to learn new things and imagination. And we never want to allow our children or dependent adults to be able to spend money online. Again, that's a gateway to gambling. And because their brains are not fully developed, wow, they get in a lot of trouble online overspending. This is an article about how he became a millionaire playing Fortnite at just 15, and he was so obsessed he didn't eat and couldn't even walk. And now he's older, he abstains from video gaming, and he's really been an advocate that children should not be monetized, have jobs, professions, make any sort of money, even if it's millions, from doing games online or professions online, how it was so unhealthy and age inappropriate. You have your whole life to make money. You don't need to be
a few decades. Fast forward to current times. Gaming is not simple shapes on the screen that require you to use your imagination anymore. It's more than a $200 billion industry that just keeps on growing. In fact, the gaming industry is now bigger than the film and music industries combined. Gaming is more popular than ever, but it's not about just playing video games as much as video games are playing you. The problem that I talked about in the beginning is the area of your brain responsible for your focus and attention. That's why the gaming industry is booming. Video game companies don't compete for just who makes a better game. They compete for who gets and keeps your attention the longest, and then who monetizes it the best. Gaming teams are full of behavioral psychologists studying human behavior and optimizing their products for their own gain. It reminds us of a time in the 60s when Big Tobacco testified that cigarettes were not addictive, while at the very same time attempting to maximize the amount of nicotine in cigarettes. For Big Tobacco, it was nicotine. For big gaming, it's dopamine.
All right. So again, that video's on an extended version on our website. In a nutshell, I want to encourage everyone to stop wasting your child's time allowing them to play video games. It severely impedes therapeutic ABA interventions and medication effectiveness too. So if your child is receiving ABA, medication, therapy, maybe tutoring, any sort of interventions, psychological interventions, anything to that effect, they should absolutely be abstaining from video games and social media. So moving on to social media and explicit images. This is another important part of online harms, is that social media is uniquely linked to serious mental health issues, including depression, anxiety, eating disorders, and other health issues for children, teens, and adults. There's something very unique about social media. Not only is it addictive, like video games, that's, creating this reward pathway overstimulation and health problems because of this, but with social media, it has all of these areas all built into one. So self-objectification, remember, like, not to look at yourself in the mirror used to be a thing my grandma would tell me. The more we look at ourselves, the more it damages our psyche. And that's been well studied over and over. Also, self-comparison. You're not supposed to compare yourself to other or covet thy neighbor. All of these, self-objectification, self-comparison, and then self-commodification, selling yourself, is a very not just unethical thing to do. It harms your psyche and is detrimental to mental health, even though it seems really fun having yourself for sale, or images of yourself, or, you know, this is why prostitution is so sad, because you're selling yourself. And this is not unlike everyone online who are influencers. Adult influencers take a lot of care that they have a team around them, that they are not constantly tied to their own accounts, because it is a very dangerous profession and it comes with a lot of risks. So we have these areas of mental health, plus high social contagion. We're going to talk about this, especially for special needs children, because what you see online catches, and this is incredibly interesting and worrisome, especially for children. We have constant distractions of all the notifications popping up. We have predators, bullies, and scams. We know this happens over and over, plus all the sexual, violent, and depressing content. So I challenge you, knowing all of this about social media, how is it possible or worth being able to fix a flat tire, or learning a recipe, or being inspired on how to dance on TikTok or Instagram or Snapchat? Any of these, it is not worth the little bits of info that they're gleaning when you have this huge amount of risk that is very, very insidious, and absolutely nobody is immune to it. Nobody, not even you or me. So the social contagion and nocebo effect is really interesting and not always talked about. So we used to see this with cults and in highly relatable environments where certain groups of people acted the same way. But now we're seeing this. It's called the triangle here. I always pronounce this wrong, sorry. So you can read it. But it consists of a sensitive user, the host, a highly relatable online environment, the environment, and then the agent, a behavior or a thought. And when you have all of those together, you catch it. And so kids are picking up tics online, acting a certain way, feeling a certain way. Time wrote an article about your doctor's words could make you sick. So when they talk about, here's a medication for this, but it might possibly have this side effect, even hearing about a side effect physiologically can cause it. And so with special needs, we don't want them seeing anything online that could exacerbate the problems that they're already experiencing, or cause new problems. It's not worth knowing about your challenges or seeking. We used to think that LGBTQ individuals benefited from online groups, and that online was a great place for them to find like-minded individuals. But it turns out that they are just like everyone else, and they are so sensitive, more sensitive. When there's problems, you become more sensitive, and they are disproportionately harmed from being online, because now they're finding out all of these other problems and being targeted and finding all of the bad things about their uniqueness, rather than finding the joy in their uniqueness. And we want them to discover this joy of their uniqueness. And especially for special needs, we want them to find this in real life, in their real life communities. We don't need them to become experts of their own biology, of their own condition. We want to shield them from this online content, because special needs children are much, much more sensitive to social contagion and the nocebo effect. The other areas of youth harm come from AI chatbots. Please do not let your children use AI chatbots. If they are using it for a research project, you must be able to supervise and see what they are doing with this and really shield them from it. There's all these other statistics here. Billie Eilish began watching porn at 11, and it really impacted her negatively. And all these other studies that we're seeing. So this leads us into the subtopic of pornography and why it's such a problem. And it's such a problem because the biggest internet porn consumers are children aged 12 to 17. So this is you, parents. This is our problem. We have no protections. It's unfortunately up to us to protect our children. And, this is not just about someone looking sexy. This has a lot of psychological impacts to viewing it, and it's accessed through all different platforms. Sometimes you've heard of OnlyFans, specializes in it. It's become very trendy, but now there's been a lot of talk about how harmful it is too. So we really want to shield our children from seeing this and partaking in it because it is so harmful. In this video, I'm going to show you, it talks about how it changes the brain. And this is not just for pornography. This is for digital media consumed excessively. So gaming and excessive scrolling, how it changes the brain, but pornography, the building blocks and what children see and how they think about themselves and others. It's really just very eye-opening.
There's pretty good documentation that the earlier someone is exposed to really explicit pornography and sexual imagery, the more likely it is that they're going to have compulsive and addictive problems around their sexuality as an adult. Because that 9-year-old does not have the emotional and biological development to be able to really understand what the meaning is, what he knows it's incredibly arousing and amazing and distracting and fun, and it feels good to look at, but their brains are really not ready to handle it.
Our sexuality is wired into us. The most sexual organ is between our ears, not between our legs. So when you are developing your brain sexually, what happens is that pornography begins building that script. This is the way we're supposed to think about it. And so when a young person views pornographic material, they're neurologically now starting to put bricks in this wall of kind of building the structure of what sex means.
Adolescent brain is not an adult brain with less experience. It is in a unique place. It is anatomically, physiologically, and biologically different. And what occurs during adolescence is several brain changes that have a purpose. And the purpose is to become very excited about sensation seeking, about rewards, about sex. And it's to become wired up, actually changing the structure of the brain to wire up to the environment. And it has been shown to occur with nerve connection. The way nerves connect and intertwine is really the basis for all learning and all memory. So what occurs is around age 11, the adolescent brain prunes down these connections until you're set with the connections that will perhaps last a lifetime.
Pornography is a teacher and modeler of sexual templates, particularly when they're modeled early, because it's a powerful neuroplasticity device. Neuroplasticity means that our brain changes, and we change when we want and when we learn. And we have seen it in pornography now. People who are watching pornography compulsively, their brains look different from those that are not.
A leading researcher said recently to me, we are in the midst of the single largest unregulated social experiment in human history. What he was talking about was the inundation of the brains of the young children with content that they're not prepared to deal with.
So again, the full video of that is on our website under parents, under resources, and just scroll down to the videos section. This is a picture of all of the IP addresses showing child sexual abuse material. And in America, we cannot control it, and we cannot prosecute it, and it's really a shame. Hopefully with AI, maybe there'll be a way to prevent it and to gatekeep it, but currently it is such a massive problem. We really want to shield especially our special needs children from it. All children and teens are at risk, and this is a big one that I want to reiterate. We cannot talk away the risks. A lot of the tech rhetoric is that parents just need to talk to their kids. With enough discussion, we can protect them. And this goes far beyond just talking, because when children are approached by predators and blackmailers, they are very sophisticated, and they know how to circumvent all of their best logic and their best teachings and not tell parents. And this is why we really need, in the solutions, we'll talk about parental control apps. So all of this is really good information. There are some resources out there about, the hearings and Take It Down website. If you happen to run across pornography, what to do. There are lots of advocacy organizations, but we at Screen Time Clinic feel that parents are the first line of action here. So you can make small or big efforts that really help tremendously. Teens can say no with parental insistence, and they can be leaders of change, but they need parental help with this. So we really encourage everybody to really power up your parenting prowess and get with it with screen time. If you're already a screen light family, just stick with it, because I know that it's not easy. So with that, let's get into solutions. Now that we know the problems at hand and why this is really such an important topic, and what can we possibly do about it? Because I know when I was a parent, I went to one of these presentations and got all this information, and then the guy said, okay, well, I've got to get off to the next presentation, kind of like I'm doing today. And he couldn't stick around for questions, and there was no coaching or other resources or even guidance of what should we do about it. So let's get into this aspect of what should we do about it now that we know it's a problem. How much is too much? And as I've said, for special needs children, 0 screen time is really recommended, the best do no harm action. If you're seeing an obsession with anything such as Minecraft, Roblox, Cocomelon, trucks, anything that is triggering this OCD, especially in special needs children, we want to really look at screen time. Maybe it's just a cartoon that they're watching. Maybe it's a math game that they're partaking in. Any obsession is a red flag. Any over-attachment to devices or asking for time on them. We want them to be able to go for days without having a device. If they feel the need to have their device, this is a sign of addiction, and it needs to be stopped with a digital detox and reset. So digital detox is 30 to 180 days without access to a device, only for learning, and that should be supervised. So if they're constantly talking about the game, when they're getting back to the game, if they're in the car at the dinner table and they really want it, this is when moderation is not working. So for some kids, usually neurotypical, they can use technology sporadically. For highly intelligent or special needs kids, it becomes an obsession very quickly. And the best remedy for that is abstinence. If we're seeing any school struggles, any developmental delays, any reading avoidance, literacy struggles, ADHD diagnosis, or an autism diagnosis, or special needs classification, absolutely abstain from digital media leisure time. If you're having problems with defiance and aggression, your first line of action is to eliminate digital media. Depression, anxiety, feeling sick all the time, digital media, take a break. Tired, late for school, avoiding exercise, digital media, take a break. And I know I'm sounding like a repetitive, this is a cure-all, and it is a type of cure-all because it affects so many areas of kids' life and their neuroconnectivity. So we have to make time for this focus, quiet time, reflection, and faith. We have to have quiet time built into their lives. And this is why we really encourage you to take a hard look at how digital media is being used, how you can replace the time, not treat it as a punishment, but set occasional use parameters, perhaps. We never want to use screen time as a reward. That's a very old school way of looking at screen time before we knew how damaging it was, and especially for special needs kids, because then they over-focus on the reward and not the learning or act or just human being that we're encouraging them to do. Also, we want them to get help sooner than later. We want you to get help sooner than later. We want you to reach out and let us know what's going on. Don't yell or give random consequences. This is not their fault that things like this are happening, that they're addicted, that they want it so bad. This is not parents' fault. We were tricked into thinking it would make them happy and it's safe and it's fun for them. So when we're thinking about redoing our access to digital media, we want to really be intentional and calm about it. To have screen-free zones like bedrooms, cars, and bathrooms, and never allow spending in games, and wait until they're 18 for gaming and social media, at least. And with special needs, just to continue this abstinence well into adulthood is really best practice if you are supporting your child and they are an adult dependent. This is another goal, 36912, that was adopted, how to really keep the focus on parent-child and child-to-child bonding, rather than, by age 12, then to introduce media, meaning some learning or television, but not devices. Again, co-using games is not a best practice. Parent curiosity of social media is not sound advice. They always say, well, you can use it with your child, but then you're both experiencing the harms. And it's really impossible to manually monitor. So if you're thinking that your child can play video games while you're sitting there watching them, it's just not possible at all. It creates unnecessary conflict, and it's just not recommended to co-use. We want to really go back to basics with all children, and especially special needs. We want to make printables, have things visually set up for them to teach reading, relaxing, coping mechanisms, having screen-free mornings and evenings, getting to school or our therapies relaxed and well regulated as best that we can be. And we know using digital media devices before therapy causes dysregulation. So on your drive to ABA therapy or before the therapist comes over, we don't want to put them in front of digital media, because then they're experiencing a digital media detox while they're trying to do their therapies. Ideally, we want to pre-plan mindful time management for littles before they view a screen, before it becomes a problem, before conception even. Viewing TV far away for less than 20 minutes is much better than on an iPad. So if you do want to allow your child to consume some digital media after a digital media detox, you start with a far away television screen with a program of your choosing. Make sure you're deleting those apps off your TV that are YouTube or any other fast-paced apps. I invite you to go to our website and purchase the full comprehensive family media guide that has all of these printables on it. You can print it out, handwrite in there your plan, and craft a plan that focuses more around your family goals than just coping with the challenges that you're having with a special needs child, and focus on what's important to your family. And we want to get back to faith, nature play, kindness, honesty, helping others, academic focus, work, hobbies, health, sports, mental health, communication, respect for elders. We want to have a real plan in place so we can communicate to our kids why it's important and why, as a family, we don't partake in this digital media because of our unique sensitivities. And so this other part that we're going to talk is the solution, because most of the parents that I talk with are like, okay, well, I've been doing it wrong until now, which was my case too. And so how do we reset and rethink? If you're already doing things great, I'm glad that this can be a real validation tool for you to say you're on the right path and stay that way. If your child is currently over consuming digital media or has that habit, don't be afraid to use this new research and use this presentation as a platform or an excuse to make change and just say, hey, you know what? I went to a presentation and I learned a lot about screen time that I think we've had wrong before. So we're going to try doing a digital media detox and see how it works, even though we know that it's going to work. If you word it in that way, it's a lot more palatable. And it's not, again, a punishment. This is another intervention, a free intervention, or if you use a digital wellness coach or a program like ours, we do have paid professional guidance because it can be overwhelming for parents, particularly those with special needs who already have a lot of areas that they're juggling. But you do see big improvements in your child within a few days, 3 to 4 days. That's more improvement and more that parents see than from medication and other ABA and therapeutic interventions. So screen time is one of the most powerful interventions, and it's a lot easier to do than you might think about. And it's easier than the current managing of screen time that you're doing, because if your child does currently like screen time, you're likely setting rules when you can do it, when you can't, take it away, give it back. So a digital detox is a great way to redo the whole environment. It does require a little bit of pre-planning to think how you're going to replenish and how you're going to restructure and how you're going to handle objections. We want to track and plan activities and really get down to basics of how are we going to structure their morning, afternoon, and evening so they are keeping busy or have unstructured time that we're strategically putting in there and feeling okay with. This is going to help with their focus stamina, with their self-regulation, all sorts of areas of their life. And we just want to rethink this daily allowance of media time. That is an old way of thinking, and just really think about how are we going to undertake digital media. We also want to have clear expectations as a family posted, I recommend, on a fridge so all the family can see it. You as parents, husband, wife, co-parenting, we've seen it all. A lot of times it's one parent, usually the mother, that takes the first step and says, you know what, we're going to do a digital detox. I'm going to lead it. We're going to see how it is. This is just what we're going to do. The dad begrudgingly goes along with it, but is called into action because it is something different and he does see improvements relatively quickly. So don't be afraid if there's only one person that really wants to make the change in the family. That's quite frequent, and we do that, and it works out just fine in the end. So with a family value plan, this is within that the media guide that you can purchase. It really helps you lay out how we're going to act and what activities we're going to do that are going to help us become the way we want to. And I know you're going to feel great with a new plan and with this new information. The other thing that's very, very important is that we use special phones for kids with special needs. They should not have iPhones, even though it might be convenient to give them your old iPhone. That is very, very harmful practice because iPhones are meant to be addictive, and kids spend their entire time trying to jailbreak and circumvent and figure them out. So we want special distraction-free phones for special needs kids, those on the autism or ADHD, quite frankly, all children, because they will notify you about any harmful texts that they're sending. I had one client whose daughter was receiving a text from her special needs friend that was saying, "Go kill yourself." Like, oh, that's terrible, in a very slang, not meaning to harm them way, but it was used so frequently of like, "Oh, that's so terrible, kill yourself." That the teenager had severe suicidal ideation, and we didn't know that until this technology was swapped out and the mother was reading the text and receiving alerts, and we remedied that problem. And of course, the child, from doing a digital detox and removing that source of agitation, also made a really miraculous recovery and is thriving today. So the other thing to do if you do have an iPad or an iPhone is to install RPact or Bark on it. And these are some of the top parental control apps that are not easily hacked, and it'll give you notifications and allow you to really lock down those apps and prevent them from putting new apps on. We also want to uncouple and build intentional routines that kids see you when you're walking in the home. You're putting your phone in a digital detox box. You're paying them the attention. And it seems like with special needs that we're always paying them attention, and we want to multitask to keep our own lives together. But the parent-child attention bonds that really need to be given are much higher demand load. And so we really want to be mindful that our attention is 100% of our attention when at all possible. And of course, no devices, no TVs, no devices in bedrooms, bathrooms, dinner tables, or cars. We have special needs children that really get captivated with iPads at the dinner table, and it's very, very harmful to their sense of self and their being and their health. Not being able to taste food and discern food, and really closes their palate and makes them a very picky eater because they are not intentionally being introduced and trying new food, and their brain waves are not open to seeing, smelling, and trying new foods. So best practices at school, again, get your special needs in class. They must be in school. ADHD, OCD, autism spectrum. I know they love to do learning online when they're in their teenage years, but being in a classroom and being, agitated that you had to deal with so-and-so, and then you don't like this teacher and you don't like this, that is building their brain power and their stamina. If they are in school, make sure their devices are off during the day. California has phones away for the day policy that your school should be following. Otherwise, keep their phones in their backpack turned off all day long, especially during passing periods and lunch, so they have that opportunity to interact with peers. Be very careful about ed tech. Prodigy is the number one big no-no. There's lots of info about how Prodigy is a really poor app that becomes addictive and is not worth the ed tech. Don't text your child during class. Use that send later feature or make yourself a reminder note. We have such great technology now that we can remind ourselves to do things. Don't use your kids as instant back and forth and texting them all the time. And please encourage your coaches and teachers not to communicate via social media, because children should not have access to social media. Australia is implementing that right now, under 16, illegal, and hopefully that will become the case in America too. If your child is doing a screen detox, or you're on the screen light or limited program, we can issue screen modification requests for your teacher or your school for 504 IEP plans that asks them to please have alternative assignments and learning ways for your child when they're in the classroom, whether your child is suffering with a digital addiction. My son would try to play video games any chance he would get if he was given a computer at school. And we had to tell the teachers, like, please pay extra attention to them, that he is actually doing the work that you're assigning and not navigating away to a gaming site. Or a lot of times teachers will put special needs kids in the back of the classroom on ed tech and let them do a math game or a reading game instead of having them sit in a group and participate. And this is really important, that they are given the opportunity to sit and participate, or they go to their counselor's office or their special needs classrooms and move their bodies and wiggle around, and are having some other type of special time for them, not in front of the screen in a different part of the classroom. We want them to be included and on screens less than their peers, not more than their peers. Teens can be a leader of change. We love seeing screen-free groups at schools and encouraging others. But adults, again, we have to use digital wellness tools to help stick to the new plan. And I know you can do it, because you have joined me for this much of the presentation already. If you have watched all of this so far, I really want to congratulate you. I know it's a lot of information. Some of our key takeaways would be to delay access to toxic apps and games for special needs, to abstain from access. We want to guide and educate our kids, but we don't want to convince or constantly argue with them. It's tempting, if you have preteens and teens, to tell them, oh, I heard this great presentation and it's so bad for you. Like, it's bad for you, it's bad for you, it's bad for you. They don't care. Their frontal lobe does not receive that information. It harms your parent-child bond. You just need to make rules and stick with them and put strategies in place that they are abstaining and choosing other activities. And remember to reset and get professional help if there are problems, to prevent these long-term mental health, ADHD, OCD struggles, agitation, and aggression that are often a problem with digital media use. You can order a tech away box. You can schedule a tech break for yourself, or schedule a digital sensitivity evaluation. Just go to our website and schedule a time with me. We do all sorts of other presentations here, but today was probably the most jam-packed information that you have had. I invite you to scan this QR code, take out your phone and multitask now. Scan this QR code. It'll take you to a site that will send you an email with some free printables that you can use and get you started on a sneak peek of our digital detox sequence of 8 weeks of emails that you'll receive that will talk about the insider scoop about a digital detox, and perhaps get you ready to undertake that yourself or with our help, because we know that the more information that you have, the more likely you are to be successful when it comes to managing digital media and keeping your children safe, especially those with special needs. So I want to thank you again for joining me. I'm so sorry I'm not able to take live questions from you, but you can email me, Nicole@screentimeclinic.com, and I am happy to respond to you that way, or schedule a Zoom meeting with me and we can talk more in depth. Thank you so much. I hope everybody has a great day, and we are here for you. And thank you so much for having us as part of your resources.